So Varnak is going to be extremely important. That is, letting people know what to expect or why we are collecting data, etc.
And the expectation is that a data fiduciary or companies will have to give those kind of channels so that they can withdraw consent, they can give consent, they can check their data is up to date or not.
Regular cleaning of that unsubscribed data so that they are not again bombarded with the emails or their data is expunged from the list of data that we have collected.
Personalization for me is comfort. Privacy is a fundamental right.
As a marketer, I cannot give up on personalization. I mean, that's the holy grail of next stage of what we deliver to people.
A lot of service organizations, or for that matter, some of the startups who will come up with a concept of consent manager for companies to say that, look, you don't have to worry about it. We are the ones who will take care of it.
Consent manager for me, interestingly, I thought of AI play. I think it will go into that.
Hello everybody. Welcome to a crucial discussion on the Digital Personal Data Protection, the DPDP Act, a legislative framework that is set to reshape the data economy in the country. As the digital footprint of citizens expands rapidly, the DPDP Act spells out data protection measures and accountability for businesses handling data. It especially empowers individuals with greater control over their personal data. They can dictate what information is collected about them, who can access it, and how it can be used. Today, we will try to understand what the DPDP Act means for marketing professionals who use data for marketing outreach, or if I could say, what the Act means for consumers of consumer data within the marketing fraternity. We will also discuss the role that we, the marketing and communications fraternity, can play in bringing the tenets of the Act to life by being an integral cog in the implementation wheel of this legislation. To discuss this, my first guest today is Jigyasa Kishore, who is the VP Transformation as a Service at Moglix, which is a B2B e-commerce store for procurement of industrial supplies. With 2 decades experience, she is someone who thrives on technology for almost everything that she does, from supply chain to marketing tactics, process efficiency, product design, and more. Thanks for joining the discussion today, Jigyasa.
Thanks, Nandini, for inviting for such an invigorating discussion. I think the topic is so relevant to us as well.
My second guest virtually is Heena Vazirani. Heena is a PwC partner specializing in enterprise risk management and data privacy. She has over 2 decades of experience in IT risk management and governance. Thanks a lot, Heena, for joining. Wish you were here, but even virtually is good.
Hi, Heena. Thanks, Nandini, for inviting. Hi, Jigyasa.
If you are enjoying watching Comms and Conversations, do subscribe to my YouTube channel, the link for which is given in the description. With that, let's start. So, Heena, what are you hearing from clients? I mean, how ready are they to welcome this act?
So, I've heard a lot of things, frankly, but the first question that comes up is, do we wait for the rules, or do we kickstart the journey right now? And if they are clients who are already into GDPR or a similar privacy kind of a setup, or if they've done, say, Section 43A of the IT Act, they're kind of better ready to adapt to what DPDP is talking about. But if someone has started from ground zero, they're still figuring out that where should we really start. So that's what I'm hearing from clients.
Yeah, and Jigyasa, you have a wide range of people you deal with, from plumbers to mechanics to even organized sector, and you'll have what are the various legs that data is coming in where you feel that there is an aspect of privacy to be looked at?
So, Nandini, we have various businesses, and like you said, one arm of our business where we deal with the commerce business, as well as on the supplier side, we have a lot of MSMEs who work with us. There we do a lot of KYC, etc. So yes, so we have mobile app download. Almost 70% of our customers are on mobile app. In some way or the other, they use it. the website cookies itself, the emailers that go out to all the customers for promotions, ads, or informing them, or the payment gateways, the various forms of payment gateways. So invariably all these mechanisms, or sometimes when on moglix.com there are SMEs and MSMEs who order bulk supply, and they are not checking out as guests, but they have to put in their GST and some other KYC. All these means we are collecting data in some form or the other.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And Heena, how do you see DPDP impacting a business like this?
So, while I won't say that we need to be stressed about it, it's a very simple regulation, it's a very simple act, and it's very progressive. So, what we are trying to say here is you continue with what you're doing, just maintain transparency and give confidence to the data principle, the so called people. And in this scenario, if you're talking about, say, plumbers or any data that you're collecting, just be transparent and give confidence that the data is taken care of. So, to do that and the mechanism around it and how to put it forward is what this act is talking about. So, we need not worry about that situation to say that is it an added cost, is it something additional, what do we do, what if I don't do. It's not about that. Continue what you're doing. It's just that it is guiding you to be transparent and giving that confidence.
So Heena says continue what you're doing, but where are you on this journey today?
So I would say all the four conduits of data collection that I spoke about, at least on all of them, we definitely have some sort of a consent taker, whether it is virtual or it is on phone or whichever way we are collecting data. So I would say in the form of pop-ups that tell you that we are collecting cookies, or your private information is being given to us, and why we are collecting that information. We always let people know.
Yeah.
There are various mechanisms in which we make sure that the data is encrypted and it's not leaked out, and there are regular checks and certifications and SOX compliances around all the software that we have deployed. So all of that at least we are doing, because even before the act, that is hygiene that you have to maintain as far as normal e-commerce company is concerned today in India as well. Other than that, of course, the marketing campaigns or communication, which is like the key of one of the points that we are discussing today. We make sure that we have the unsubscribed or opt out very clearly, very clearly specified. And again, Nandini, it's not just about specifying and allowing people to opt out, but then what do you do of that consent is also important. So, that regular cleaning of that unsubscribed data, so that they are not again bombarded with the emails, or their data is, expunged from the list of data that we have collected. So, these are some of the hygiene that we religiously maintain today. And there are few people responsible for it, but it's for them, it's their bread and butter within the organization.
And anything you are gearing up for or planning to do, or any changes in your marketing outreach or strategy that you're looking at?
Yeah. So, like early on, you also mentioned that we are dealing with very, very different kind of, people. Now, if you look at our commerce reach, one of the USPs is that we go to tier 2, we go to SMEs, plumbers, electricians, contractors, everybody who buys industrial tool. So Varnak is going to be extremely important. That is, letting people know what to expect or why we are collecting data, etc., in vernacular language. And definitely, deployment of a data officer who just looks around it probably could become one of the things. And to be honest, we don't have a very firm view on how this will be managed, because if it is with evolution of the act, if we can digitize that bit also, but definitely that focus on management of that data, and a bit more of creating that awareness and literacy around it, not just in a passive way, but a little bit more active way, is something that is under planning for our business, for sure.
So Heena, with DPDP, do you see the long-term strategy which is based on consumer data going off gear in some way or needing to adapt?
So I don't think it will go off gear per se, but see, when we talk of strategies, if we talk about say 2010 to now, we've seen a trend that came up from a information security point of view, right? We saw that information security became cyber security. We saw that earlier a position of a CISO never existed, but then when we talk about strategy or governance model, now by default there is an area of CISO or cyber that is thought through as a part of corporate strategy. This is a very similar trend that we will see. We will see that when people are getting into the areas where personal data is required, the thought process of ensuring privacy impact or what is it that needs to be done additionally to continue to safeguard that data will be a thought through process. We will see that as a part of strategy, privacy would be taken hand in hand the way we take cyber hand in hand, because it will start impacting business from a compliance perspective also. It will start impacting business from a perspective that there will be an add-on connect with the consumers, because the expectation is that a data fiduciary or companies will have to give those kind of channels so that they can withdraw consent, they can give consent, they can check their data is up to date or not, they can update the data. There are so many rights that have been given. So that communication channel will be something that will be thought through as and when companies are looking for strategies that focus on the areas of personal data.
Right. But Heena, typically data is something you use for giving a great user experience, for personalization. How do you think this balance between privacy and personalization is going to happen?
See, personalization is more of, I would say, experience that I would want. Personalization is something what I need from a convenience point of view. And as a data principle, I do look for it. Privacy is a fundamental right that I will ask for, right? When I look at it from a data principle perspective, if you ask me, for me, what is more important, I would say personalization vis-a-vis privacy. Privacy is more important because I need to make sure whatever I've given is taken care of, and it's not given out to someone else, or for that matter, misused, right? Now, when it comes to a data fiduciary, and we are talking about as a data fiduciary or any e-commerce platform, will I be able to continue to do personalization or profiling to give those options to people? Then the answer is there are some additional aspects. There is some kind of a process re-engineering, and there is some kind of a model of a notice and a consent that needs to be developed, so that as an end user, if today I need personalization and tomorrow I do not need personalization, at any point in time, I should be able to withdraw that consent also. So the way we have to design the process to give that option has to be re-looked upon based on what this act is expecting you to do.
So personalization once you have the consent for what one is looking for. But Heena, typically for us as marketing people, many a times we rely on third-party data to kickstart our campaigns. Now, this could be a potential landmine, because what if the third party, how do you actually navigate this when you're buying this third party data?
So, Nandini, this one is a very tricky one, and something that I've come across multiple times when I engage with clients or I've done roundtables. When the data is being collected, the first point in contact of collection of data is the third party, right? Which means the third party becomes the data fiduciary. Now, at that point in time, the data fiduciary should have given a notice that what is the purpose for which this data is collected, and also communicate to the data principal that it will be, passed on or given to somebody else for using, or it could be for promotions, it could be for promos, they could reach out for jobs, etc., etc. So this kind of a notice needs to be designed by these agencies before they pass on the data to somebody who's as big as, any corporate. Now, while I would still say that the onus lies with this primary data fiduciary because they collected the data, when it comes to me, I will have to again engage to get a fresh consent or give a notice to that fiduciary, communicate to that data principal, communicating that while we've got your details, considering that you're open for these kind of channels or newsletters, or we reaching out to you, will you be okay if we continue to hold your data, because we want to engage with you, we want to send newsletters to you, we want to invite you for forums and take a fresh consent. While it sounds to be a humongous task, but eventually we have to remember that when we buy out the data, and while there is a contract in place between the agency and the fiduciary, wherein you are aligning that the consent has already been collected, over a period of time, this data, then the onus is with us, and we are starting a new channel of communication with the data principal. So it is always best that when we are reaching out the first time, we give a notice, communicate that, and get a consent as well.
Okay, so if I get you correctly, if you're buying a third party data, maybe the first time, I mean, you've agreed with the third party who's providing the data that they have the consent in place. You might do a first time outreach, but then you need to be getting consent again from everybody who's on the list before you actually start using the third party data. Is that what you say?
Yeah, because there's a brand name involved, right? The brand name of doing promotions or newsletters, or for that matter, whatever you want to engage with, will be a data fiduciary eventually.
That's a humongous task.
Yeah, that's a humongous task. I think one of the things that comes out of Heena's point, and you're right, Nandini, like we buy data all the time and we use it. One thing, I don't know whether you do it or not, but I think most people don't do it today, is that when we are buying data, contractually the parties are not saying that the data will be used specifically just for this purpose. That's one. And two, the indemnity and liability. So like there are a lot of platforms today selling data online. You just have to sign up and download. Most of them are like that. Like how many times do we actually get to sign the physical contract or the digital contract for what does it entail for them or for us? It's all terms and conditions, one tick maybe at most. So I think even those two things, the exact purpose of data usage and a proper contract, will be a huge deterrent even on the part of the third party who's selling data to keep that consent refreshed, and the purpose of usage is the burden on the next fiduciary.
Exactly.
If you think about it, it's very loosely contracted today, by the way.
I mean, that'll be probably this whole business of buying third party data.
Exactly. And it is easier than getting consent from everyone individually, at least as a starting point. I would say this is maybe not the perfect solution like Heena's solution, but as a starting point, I think this could be a good thing.
What are the other challenges you expect to face as you move on, the awareness or actually getting DPDP?
Yeah. So I think if you look at the range of demographic that is exposed or at the vulnerability of data, giving away data, right from the millennials to the old people to the people who are not digitally savvy, or so I think the burden of not just as a tick mark taking consent, but educating each of the classes is very, very important at the grassroots level, at the level that they actually consume media, rather than, because an email is nothing to an MSME or a contractor. A millennial is too eager to, give consent for using photographs or contacts to use an app.
Without even realizing.
Exactly, without even realizing it. And an old age person who's just like, it's like a toy in my mama's hand, that she's quick to download the social media and everything else and give away contact and everything else. So I think the grassroots level at which they consume. So I think banks have done a phenomenal job. They keep sending even SMSs that no bank will ask you, and in all the languages they keep sending SMSs. They will do an IVR calls also to for awareness. I think even at the village panchayat level, like everywhere where this data protection needs to be, the education has to be at that level. Only then this can be successful, other than of course the cultural change which is going to eventually evolve. But yeah.
Heena, what opportunities are you seeing for India and Indian corporates because of this act?
Opportunities are many, and I'll start off with something that directly hits us. India, as such, as a hub of outsourcing, there is one area wherein a lot of countries who had local privacy regulations refrained from outsourcing personally identifiable information to India, because the comfort level lies, and there is a concept which says that if you're giving data to a particular country or to a particular location, if they have a local law, if they have a local regulation which takes care of personal data of their own citizens, only then they'll be able to take care of data of citizens outside that country. And that's the comfort level based on which we will see opportunities coming out, wherein outsourcing will not be refrained from a perspective that India doesn't have a privacy related law. We'll see those kind of outsourcing opportunity as India Inc., wherein people will reach out for processing personally identifiable information. Right now we are restricted from a European point of view or a GDPR point of view, that countries cannot outsource that kind of a function which deals with personally identifiability. So that's the first one. The second opportunity that I see is obviously in the startup ecosystem. And like we began the conversation and we were talking about it, right, that what is it that companies want to do, how do they start off with. And there are some companies who are grappling with the whole aspect of DPDP. Where do I start from? So you would see a lot of service organizations, or for that matter some of the startups, who will come up with a concept of consent manager or handling compliance end to end, for companies to say that, look, you don't have to worry about it, we are the ones who will take care of it. And this whole concept of consent manager, which is some kind of a channel between a data principal and a data fiduciary, is something that is new to compared to the other regulations that exist from a privacy perspective. So this is again an opportunity for a lot of startups to pick up, and service organizations also to pick up as an opportunity and start running in the market to help companies who've not dealt with this kind of an act before, and keep them running. One more point of view that I can give as an opportunity, but not a direct one. This act has mentioned that, to maintain the transparency of data, and specifically that you would deal with all sorts of people, right? You will deal with tier 2, tier 3 cities also. They've mentioned that when you are giving a notice and a consent, it has to be either in English or in 22 languages that are mentioned in the Constitution of India. Now, if you ask me as an opportunity, while it is very straightforward for someone to say that only these two aspects is something that I can look at and change it and provide it as an option for language purpose. But imagine if I completely change the whole aspect of service into a local language, the complete user experience itself in a local language rather than just limiting to, say, a notice and a consent. I am very sure that a lot of people will prefer that. It could be either specifically geographical locations in India who prefer a local language over English, even to do interactions or do transactions online. They will prefer that kind of an e-commerce platform vis-a-vis one which only offers English. So this is something that we can look for. I'm not saying that this is a trend that we will see, but definitely an opportunity that we can harp on.
So it will basically get people to be more inclusive in
Right.
the process. I mean, I'm
Right.
sure people already are,
Yeah.
companies are, but probably
yeah.
push them further to be. Any other opportunities that you are seeing?
So Nandini, as a marketer, one of the biggest opportunities that I see will come out of it is that today we are looking at a pool of data and not a cleaner pond. Wherein imagine a scenario where there's a well opt-in data, and even 70-80% we know that there is a consent to consume, the engagement rate itself will go very high. And suddenly you're talking to relevant people. That's one aspect, and the conversions will go high, and overall consumption will go high. So click-through rates will fall down. So everything that touches the aspect of digital marketing, which we see all the time, the difference between having the right set of data and wrong set of data. So that aspect will kick in for sure. The second big opportunity that I see is that once there is a environment of trust around data, then the skeptics who do not want to come online, buy online, and there is a pool of that people, the skeptics who do not want to, do maybe online shopping or give away their data for the right opportunity also, that pool will suddenly go up by leaps and bounds.
Because they know the data is secure.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think those two things itself will be able to lift up the relevance of online engagement so much more. So, yeah.
Okay, let's move on to a rapid fire now, where I will have a word or two words and your quick impromptu response to that. So let's start with you, Jigyasa.
Okay.
DPDP ready.
Getting there, journey.
To you, Heena.
It's a journey.
Okay. Main compliance challenge that you see, Heena.
Acceptance.
Acceptance. Can you just elaborate on that? Sorry.
See, historically, if you look at countries which are, we talk about Europe, we talk about US, privacy was something that was, embedded fundamentally from the stage of, someone going to school knows that privacy is important. In India, first, our generation, or for that matter, anybody, we never thought about giving out data twice. A representative comes in, I will not think twice before giving the data, right? And suddenly, if I am saying as a data principle, I need to think twice about something, the acceptability from that perspective of, is this something that you are adding a compliance cost to me? Is it something that you are telling me that I will be penalized for? Or is it something that because you are a data principal, you have a fundamental right to question a data fiduciary that your data is taken care of? So the acceptance of this change is something that I feel is more there compared to any other challenge.
Interesting. Anything you want to add as a challenge?
Interestingly, my point was similar, but mine was more culture. And it's something as simple as that, Nandini. Like, I don't know how many times have you knocked on your kids' room before entering their room. I think it's so ingrained, this informality of culture and sharing.
That's our Indian culture.
Yeah, I mean, sharing data, like not calling on neighbor before. And now, of course, it's become a little bit more formal in tier 1 cities, but tier 2, tier 3, we still, don't check before getting into our neighbor's house and we go. So I think it's that whole ingrained thing, mindset thing, which is going to be
change that you're saying.
Cultural change.
Yeah. So between personalization and privacy, which one you think?
Both.
Okay.
As a marketeer, I cannot give up on personalization. I mean, that's the holy grail of next stage of what we deliver to people.
I know what Heena is going to say, but let me ask Heena. Heena, personalization or privacy?
So, personalization for me is comfort. Privacy is a fundamental right.
I thought so. And consent managers?
Opportunity.
Okay. I'm again going to ask you to elaborate a little more over there.
So like I said that, this is a new concept compared to other regulations globally that exist about, some individual or group of individuals along with technology will help you figure out or be someone who can be a channel as a data principal, as a data fiduciary. It's an opportunity to grab and pick it up and say, either for fiduciaries or for that matter, data principals, which startups can take up.
Right. True.
Yep. Consent manager for me, interestingly, I thought of AI play. I think it will go into that.
Oh.
I think it can be big.
Your take on that, Heena?
Yeah, it can be. While we are, grappling with the whole thing of AI and how challenging it can become, but if we use those energies in something like this, definitely it has a big opportunity.
Yeah, yes, I think that's going to be the holy grail.
Yeah, interesting. Heena, data processors.
Lucky. I'm sure that you will ask me why, and I'll tell you the
I'm
answer
just about
also.
to ask again. I have to ask
I
you
know,
to
I love
elaborate.
your
Because
answers, Heena. You're stumping me. Had it been currents, you would have got the hamper now.
Totally, totally.
I'll tell you why they're lucky. So, when you talk about the existing mature regulations, privacy regulations, and I'm a certified privacy technician and I've dealt with and read a lot of such regulations. They say that if there is a data fiduciary and there is a data processor, the data processor is equally liable.
Right.
If there is a breach that happens or something goes wrong, they're equally liable, right? Now, in DPDP, what it says is a data processor is someone who has been appointed by a data fiduciary for their convenience, but the data fiduciary is accountable, responsible, and liable if there is a breach that happens. And that is the reason I said lucky.
Lucky. They have the business, but the accountability does not.
Yeah, it's like the vicarious liability.
Totally, totally.
I thought of training, probably like,
Sorry, come again?
training.
Oh, okay.
Training.
Okay.
I think that's going to be important for data processors. At least that's what came to my mind.
Yeah, yeah. And before we end, Jigyasa, how do you unwind when you're not into the digital world?
Spending time with my son, Kabir, and cooking for him.
Okay, interesting. What about you, Heena?
So while the first part remains the same, like we spoke before we started the session, spending time with my son Mivan, and I would say instead of cooking, painting and reading with him.
Right. Thanks a lot, Jigyasa, Heena. I think this is a very relevant discussion at this point of time.
Absolutely.
And I hope it will get a lot of marketing communication people also thinking on what they could do in terms of their role and how they could help their organizations on this journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nandini. I think it was great discussion, especially, the positive opportunity part was a great start to an act.
Thank you. I'm sorry that I was not there in person. I missed it. I missed all the fun. But I would wait for the current hamper.
You got it. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I hope that the insights shared by Heena and Jigyasa will get you thinking. In my opinion, DPDP is not just a move towards data security and heightened privacy standards. It is a defining opportunity for businesses to position themselves as responsible entities that deeply respect the privacy of each customer, thereby shaping a narrative of trust, which, you will agree, is the new currency for responsible businesses. Today, businesses have the chance to bolster their reputation by proactively building awareness among customers regarding data privacy and their rights. This in turn can elevate trust not only among customers but also among all stakeholders. And I do believe that marketing and communication professionals have an important role to play, starting with initiating discussions within the organization on driving internal and external awareness campaigns so that the purpose and vision of the DPDP Act 2023 is met, that the data gets handled more responsibly. If you have already started on this journey, do share what challenges you may be facing in the comments, as maybe a solution will get provided.